So for residential garage floors, it's very common to coat what is called the stem wall or the vertical block that you'll see around your perimeter. So in this video, we're going to be showing you how to coat those blocks, the tools that you're going to need, and just kind of the overall process, how to mix it and what's needed. Right here, you can pretty much see everything that you're gonna need. What we have here is we have a little whiz roller, 1/2-inch nap. I really like the 1/2-inch nap over the 3/8 inch. It does a better job of getting in all the nooks and crannies and crevices. Chip brush, which you'll use in your harder to reach areas. Pan, obviously, to kind of hold the material. Taping knife. We'll use the taping knife to actually kind of throw the flake up on the wall and put it up on there and get it to stick. We'll show you that in a second. And then finally, we've got, believe it or not, cornstarch. When you mix the product, you want to put a thickening agent in it so that it doesn't just fall off the walls. We personally use more of an industrial product, a fumed silica. It's more expensive. It's not the safest for you to breathe. So again, for most residential homeowners and DIYers, we're going to recommend you use the cornstarch. A little bucket. You've got a mixing stick, which you can use for your smaller batches. If you need to get some of the coating out of the bucket, it's nice to have that on hand. A can opener, so obviously you can get the cans open. And then right here we have the coating that you're going to be mixing and using to actually apply up on the wall, and that's going to be the adhesive that holds the flake onto the surface. We are going to use Hyperbond. You're going to have a part B, 2 parts A. The ratio is going to be crucial, and we'll talk about that more in the mixing. And then here obviously we just have the flake. All right, so now we've kind of gone through the inventory, we're going to go ahead and start mixing the product. We are going to use this to, again, apply this to the verticals and get the flake applied. So first, we need to mix 1 part of part B to 2 parts of part A. It's very, very crucial that you get the mix ratio right. So what I like to do before we go to mix is make sure that you have your cans separate so you don't accidentally get the part screwed up and mix it wrong. So now that we've got part A and B together in the bucket, we're going to go ahead and add the tint. Now the tint basically is going to be like paint. You want to stir it up really well before you start pouring it in. That way you can make sure that you have a nice consistent color throughout. The color that we're putting on here is gravel, which a great base tint color is sable gray. So we're going to go ahead and add that to it. We'll get that mixed up. That'll give us some color. Now when we go to pour this in, you don't want to pour too much. I would pour a little bit in, mix it, and then once you see that it's not transparent, you have a nice solid color, you're good to go. You won't need to put a lot. We're probably going to only put maybe 4 to 5 ounces in it. Again, you don't need a lot. Now that we have all of our liquids mixed, we're going to go ahead and start adding the cornstarch. When you go to mix this, you don't want it too thick to where it's a paste. You want it to basically be the thickness of molasses so that it hangs really well on the wall. In total, you're going to want to mix this material for at least 2 minutes. So this is about the consistency you want it to be at. Once you've reached that thickness, you're good to start applying it. You want it, again, to just be thicker so that it's not just falling off the walls. And again, the thickness is also going to help it to grab the flake and let the flake stick on the surface better. All right, so we've kind of already started, and we've started down here. We've worked our way up to here. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how we actually apply it. These walls are pretty coarse, so when we go to apply the material, you're going to want to glob it on there a little bit. You can see where we've kind of put the flake up on the wall. So again, you're going to want it pretty thick so that it's got a lot to grab to. So we'll start by edging out some of this on the top. We're just going to dip out of our pan here. Just kind of glob it up on the top. Get our edge work done first. Really get in all those crevices. Try to be as neat as you can with it. It's hard when you're coating a coarse surface like this. But this product's got a decent bit of working time. And again, if you've got smaller batches that you're making, you don't have to worry as much about, wasting product. So we'll go ahead and do maybe about a 3.5 foot section at a time. And then once we get that done, we'll go ahead and start applying the flake. You're going to want to apply the flake relatively quickly behind you so that it doesn't have a lot of time for the material to sag and fall off the wall. And it'll also give you a lot better concentration of color. You got more flake grabbing on the surface there. All right. Once we have enough of our surface, put it on the top, we'll go ahead and switch over to the roller. And then again, we're just gonna glob it on the surface there. Don't worry about being too neat with it. Again, it's really nice to have that 1/2" nap roller because it's gonna help us to get and coat all these little crevices better. If you wanted to, you could even get a coarser nap, like a 3/4 inch. All right, now once we have this area coated, we've got our flake here, kind of get a pile, drop down here at the end, sprinkle the top, just so it's covered. Then once we have that, we're gonna take our taping knife, kind of work the pile down the wall, scoop it, and keep pressure applied. If you just kind of throw it at the wall like you'll see some people do, it'll stick, but a lot of it's gonna bounce off. If you just kind of scoop it down and push the pile up into it, the flake will stick a lot better. You'll just get a better color concentration. All right. So now we have this area done, you can see how we did that. We're just gonna keep working our way down all the way around, and it's gonna pretty much be the same. So we'll keep at it. Making sure that it sticks really well is what's gonna, again, help that color to really pop. If you don't have enough on there, it's just gonna kind of bleed through and you won't have a nice, even, consistent color throughout. All right, so we've already gone around the perimeter on the stem walls. We got them all coated and flaked. Before we can wrap up here as far as the walls for the day, we're gonna be doing the floor here in just a second. So we're gonna have to carefully go around with the vac and just get any loose flakes on the floor cleaned up. Once we're done with that, we can't do anything else with the walls today. So we're gonna let that set up and we'll be back to get the walls finished later. So we went ahead and let the walls set up overnight. We coated and flaked them yesterday. So now we're just gonna go ahead and do some prep. To do that prep, you're gonna need a 5-in-1 painter's tool, and you can just use some sanding screen or sandpaper, 120 grits, just fine. I'm gonna use the painter's tool to go around in all these like edges, like where your 90 degrees are, and kind of use that to scrape any flake that's standing up or bunched up. So like right here and right here, I'll go around and get that flake out. And then I'll use the screen to go around and just sand all the loose flake off, knock any peaks down and flatten it out a little bit. That way we go to top coat it, it's gonna leave a nicer, smoother finish on the final. One thing that's difficult about walls like this, for example, so these are just simulated brick, basically, just poured walls. They're like simulated grout lines. It's important that you kind of get the sandpaper, take your time, work it in there, and get all the flake out of those crevices, because if you don't, you're gonna have a really, really rough wall in your finish. So we went around, sanded all the walls, went around with the painter's tool, kind of got all the edges, all the flake knocked down. So now, before we're ready to put that top coat on, we need to go around with the vac, make sure any loose flake that's on the surface is vacked up, any debris, so it's nice and tight. And then once that's done, we'll finally be ready to apply that final top coat. All right, so now that we've got everything prepped, vac, we're finally ready to apply the top coat on the verticals here. So let's go through what we're gonna need really quick. Obviously, we're gonna need our product, Aspartic 85 SloGO. This is a low odor version too. It still has a little bit of an odor, but it's not nearly as pungent as most of the other products that we're gonna use, so that's a big help. I like to use a little roller, just like we used to apply the coating for the flake. 1/2" nap again, 3-inch chip brush for a little harder to reach areas, mixing stick, and then a 5-in-1 painter's tool to open up the cans. That's pretty much all we're gonna need. We got our mix station laid out. Again, it's nice to have it organized close to the area that you're gonna be working so that you're not risking spill and drippage when you're transferring stuff to the floor. But once you've got it all laid out, we're good to go, so we'll go ahead and get to the mixing. All right, so we'll go ahead and start by putting the part B in first. We've got 1 part B to 2 parts of A. So for this mix, I'm just gonna go ahead and mix 24 ounces. We'll fill it up to 8 ounces for the part B. Now that we've got that filled up, we'll go ahead, pour in the part A. We'll fill that up to 24 ounces. Go ahead and mix this up for a minimum of 2 minutes. I wouldn't mix it up much more, but once we have it mixed up and it's thoroughly blended, we'll be ready to start applying it to the surface on the verticals. The nice thing about this product versus the epoxy, so with the epoxy, you've got to worry more about a pot life. On most of your epoxies, you've got a 15, maybe a 20-minute pot life, and what pot life means, it's the product in mass in the bucket. For epoxy, you don't want to leave it in the bucket. You want to get it out on the floor. This product actually behaves the exact opposite. So it's going to have a lot more working time in mass. Once you get it out onto the floor, you start spreading it, it's going to start to tack up relatively quickly. So if you leave it in the bucket, you're going to have a lot more time with it. So we'll want to remember that when we're doing the floor. The pot life on this is right around 45 minutes. It does depend on the temperature. Two things that are going to affect the cure time in this product are temperature and humidity. Moisture in the air helps to cure this. So the higher the humidity, that's also going to cut down your working time. So it's important to remember that when you're applying this as well. The ideal conditions for this would be between 75, 80 degrees, maybe 75% and under on your humidity. So now we've got that mixed up really thoroughly. We're going to go ahead and transfer that to the roller pan and start using our tools to apply it to the surface. So we're going to go ahead and start applying the material to the walls here. When you apply it, you don't want to apply it too thick to where it's running down the wall. Really all you're trying to get accomplished is seal the walls. Once we go all the way around here, a nice thing about this product is, as I mentioned earlier, it tacks up pretty quickly. So once we make our way all the way around, if you want to just put another quick coat on it, just to kind of give it a little more body, it'll be tacked up enough at that point that you'll be able to do that. So we're going to go ahead and work our way around here and get these walls sealed up. So that's it. We've got it all wrapped up. We appreciate you watching, and we'll see you again next time.